Some mornings you stand at the sink and feel a small misfit. The mug cools faster than your hands. A calendar square looks unfamiliar. You live in familiar rooms while a new shape of you presses at the door. It is neither crisis nor triumph. It is a quiet mismatch, habits that no longer fit, desires that quietly rearrange themselves. We will not offer answers. We'll trace the contours instead. A simple map to walk the edges. To see what wants room.
Think of yourself as a house. The rooms are lived in. One room is the persona, polished, rehearsed, polite. Another, below stairs, holds the shadow, the parts you tuck away, anger, small embarrassments, the stories you never tell. Above, light shifts in an attic where new tendencies fumble to stand, interest, risk, a softer yes. Name them. Walk them. Notice which rooms are crowded and which are waiting. Not to fix everything, but to recognize doorways. To learn where to pause. Which door will you open?
Now sketch the inner map. The front room is your persona, the worn script you offer the world. Below, the cellar holds the shadow grudges, small shames, blunt needs. The attic is lighter, incipient wants, odd curiosities, a stubborn warmth that wants to stay. These parts move by different logics. A laugh, a withdrawal, a sudden interest. Notice them without collapsing into blame. Pause. Which corridors connect? Where is the light leaking in? Those corridors keep ledgers. Approval, novelty, ease, meaning each pays in a different currency. Some rewards arrive like heat, instant, bright, forgettable. Others compound slowly, like a river carving stone. Habits are the bank. A notification, a sugar, a withheld word, tiny deposits that change architecture. Over months they redirect light and draft. The attic prefers slow returns. The cellar settles for immediate relief. Which currencies are you banking with? We'll follow where the payments go. Payments arrive. But not all accounts belong to you. Some debts sit outside your ledger, whether other people's moods, the past. The Stoic cut is simple: notice what you can shape and what you cannot. You cannot stop a message. You can choose the pause before you reply. You cannot force recognition. You can decide the morning you make for yourself. Choice lives in small thresholds. A breath. A door closed. A default turned off. These are not grand vows. They are tiny sovereign acts that redirect where your attention pays its taxes. We'll mark that border. Then see what steps are possible inside it. And which demands were only noise.
Inside that border, change lives in repetition. Not declarations. Small acts. Cues that arrive like knocks. A coffee cup, the chair by the window, the 5 minutes before you check your phone. A tiny response. A quiet reward. The loop stitches itself into muscle and memory. Habits don't need drama. They need consistency. They are anonymous until they accumulate into shape. They speak to the future you more than anyone else. So design the doorway, not the whole journey. Make a default that asks little. A single paragraph, a walk to the end of the block, a notification silenced. Over time, those margins thicken. Patterns begin to feel like a person. Listen for the small summons. Which tiny door will you open tomorrow?
When those small acts begin to pattern you, the next move is often subtraction. Not grand renunciations. Gentle clearing. An empty shelf. A single lamp on a nightstand. One notebook where once were three. Remove the needless frictions that steal the margin, a ringtone, a tab, a half-answered message. Trim options until choices become visible again. Design defaults that nudge rather than demand. Make the easiest path the one you actually want to walk. The point isn't purity. It's attention. Space where choice can breathe. Space where the emerging you can be seen without background noise. If you clear one corner of your day, what appears in that quiet? A thought. A tendency. A small, honest voice. Will you sit with it long enough to notice? When you clear the room, another presence moves forward. Not loud. Not dramatic. A tug at the edge of attention. It arrives as irritation. As a joke you use too often. As a tightness behind the ribs. A recurring complaint about someone else. Jung called it the shadow, parts we exile so the self can stay tidy. It is not an accusation. It is material. Resistance is information. Projection is a map. Craving and shame whisper where something wants shape. You don't banish it. You listen. Name what appears. Notice its tone. Where does it ask to be seen? Where does it hide in your daily moves? This is slow work. Small, careful noticing. No quick fixes. If you hold that attention, what might begin to unclench? But listening needs space. And space is bought with attention. These days attention is everywhere taxed. A glowing rectangle in your palm. An app that nudges you back, again and again. Small pleasures arranged to be inexhaustible. They thin the field where the shadow can speak.
Stewardship is quieter than willpower. It looks like a closed door for an hour. A single notification rule. A morning habit that asks nothing grand, just one deliberate minute of facing the desk, the page, the quiet. This is not deprivation. It's selection. You choose where your minutes compound. So you make tiny defenses. You reduce friction for what matters. You increase it for the distractions. If you reclaimed a corridor of attention, one short, uninterrupted span each day, what might move through it? What would finally be allowed to arrive?
If attention is the corridor, time is the architecture that holds it. Small acts, repeated, build like sediment. A minute becomes a habit. Days become a pattern. Months carve grooves you hardly notice until one morning the room looks different.
Patience here is not waiting. It's arranging conditions. It's choosing the slow lever, the same book read twice, the same page returned to, the same hour kept sacred. Naval called it playing the long game. That slowness is tactical. It compounds invisibly. There is a threshold. For a long while nothing seems to change. Then connections click. Quiet work finds an echo. A habit aligns with a value. The shadow shifts shape.
This is where urgency softens. Where becoming stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like tending. What would you plant if you trusted the season to finish its work? If you planted, the next work is soil. Not glamour. Not a dramatic overhaul. Quiet tending. Clear the immediate ground. Remove a persistent friction, an app, a habit, a cluttered surface. Make the path easy. Make the cue visible.
Choose one small ritual. 10 minutes with a book. A single page, a single pen. Do it at the same hour for a week. No declarations. Just return. Create one modest signal of identity. A mug on a table. A notebook left open. A plant by the window. These objects do a soft kind of work. They remind you without scolding. The point isn't perfection. It's fidelity. Small repeated choices become the language you speak to yourself.
Leave one gentle question with the soil. What sign will you plant to call the person you are becoming? Now wait. Keep the mug, the open notebook, the 10 minutes. Watch what happens. Notice the small resistances. A rationalization. A tenderness. A tiny sense of being seen. Name them without blame. Let the sensations land. Treat each interruption as information. Where does the urge to skip live, in the throat, the calendar, the voice that remembers failure? Ask it a simple question. Not to fix. To learn. When you return, do it quietly. No proclamation. Just the work, again. If you stop, note what filled the space. If you continue, notice what softens. These little reports are the map. What will the soil ask of you tomorrow? If those little reports are a map, they begin to draw a terrain. There's the face you show, the front door kept polished. It greets others. It performs competence. It keeps you safe. Below, a cellar of impressions. Old hurts. Forgotten, yes. The parts you shut away because they make the house feel crowded. Between them, a thin trail. New tendencies. A small insistence, a sketch of who might come through. It can be as quiet as a bookmark left in a different chapter. Or a habit that no longer fits, like a coat you can't quite close. You'll recognize each by how they ask. The persona bargains. The seller mutters. The trail tugs. No need to tidy them yet. Just notice where each door leads. Which room wants the light? Something else keeps the house supplied. Quiet currency. Desire. Think of it like small coins moving through rooms. A notification dings, a coin drops. A habit repeats, another coin. Over years, the flow builds walls.
Naval framed it simply: your future is paid for by the habits you fund today. Behavioral psychology names the mechanism cue, routine, reward, and the pattern is ordinary. A morning coffee becomes a marker. Scrolling becomes a river. Compliments and fears both make deposits. Not all wants are equal. Some by novelty. Some by steadier preferences that reshape taste and time.
So the question isn't will you change? It's what you are quietly underwriting. We'll look next at the machines that move those coins, not to blame, but to understand where the house gets its heat. Now, imagine walking the house you keep inside. There's the face you present, tidy, competent, the self that answers emails and tucks away doubt. That is the persona. It fits social rooms. It pays the bills of expectation. Then there are the basements. The shadow holds what you disown. Small jealousies. Old silences. Impulses you hide from polite company. They gather like weather. They are heavy, but they carry signals. Between them, a softer current moves. The emerging self shows up in odd habits, a quiet hour of writing, a refusal, a new taste. Not dramatic. Almost invisible. It doesn't yet belong to either the persona or the shadow.
These parts are not enemy or prize. They are maps. Soon, we will watch the machines that send the coins, and see which rooms get funded, and which are left dark. Those coins arrive quietly. Small rewards, repeated. A like, a sale, the relief of ticking a box. Each one buys a little future behavior. Platforms are clever coin minters. Notifications, streaks, novelty, they architect desire. Behavioral loops learn what to expect. Cue, routine, reward. Over time the house fills the rooms that get fed. Naval calls it compound interest of habits. The tiny deposits accumulate far beyond any single moment. The wants that pay rent become your preferences. The flashes that don't fade. Pause. That's the external story. There is also a choice about who feeds the machines. You can add friction. You can change defaults. You can notice which rooms collect wealth and which remain dark. Which coins do you let fall today?
There is a quieter frame to hold this. The Stoics named it simply, what is up to you and what is not. You cannot command the feed. You cannot stop the notification from arriving. You cannot change someone else's mood. But you can choose the next gesture. You can close the tab. You can breathe 3 times before replying. You can set one small rule and keep it.
Agency lives in these margins. Not in grand proclamations, but in restrained nudges. A deliberate friction at a doorway. A tiny default that favors the person you want to become. Treat control like a compass, not a hammer. Point, then act. See what shifts. Pause. Which small axis will you stand on, just for now? Choose one small practice. Not a promise to yourself for life. A practice for the next week. Something simple, the mug by the door, a single sentence in a notebook, 2 deep breaths before answering. Think in 3 moves: cue, routine, reward. The cue calls you. The routine is small enough to do. The reward, however modest, closes the loop. Do it again tomorrow. And again. Repetition is less heroism than accumulation. It lays tiny traces. Day by day, those traces settle into posture. Habits are slow sculpture. The chisel is mundane.
This is where character and preference begin to merge. Not in a crisis. In the comfortable, repeated margins. What are you willing to repeat, quietly, until it changes you? A practice needs room to breathe. Not more willpower. Less noise. Choose one thing to remove for the week. A drawer cleared. One app uninstalled. A single shelf left empty. Small subtraction. Immediate effect. Design the margins. Fewer visible choices. One notebook for ideas. One place to sit. Make the cue obvious. Make the path simple. Reduce friction so the tiny habit can find you.
Minimalism here is not austere. It is interpretive. It is an experiment in attention. You are arranging the stage for what matters to appear. Watch what happens to your impulses. Notice which habits fade. Notice which new tendencies show up. Let the space answer. For 7 days, keep it simple. Then listen. Something quiet may be trying to get your attention. What will it say? Now the cleared shelf becomes a mirror. Silence reveals a twinge. A small, stubborn resistance. It might arrive as irritation, or as a familiar excuse, or as an urge that pulls you back to old clutter. This is not failure. It is information. Parts you denied will find other exits. They project onto people. They hide in distraction. They tug at the edges of your week.
Name it gently. Where do you feel it in your body? What story shows up first? Ask, without judgment, what that part wants. Curiosity, not fixing. Try a small experiment. When resistance appears, lean toward it for 30 seconds. Breathe. Listen. Keep your hands soft. What resists the new space may be trying to keep something whole. Let it speak. Then notice what wants to move through you next. Often the tug of distraction is the shadow finding another exit. A notification. A scroll. An unfinished list that needs not your action, but your attention. Attention is currency. Designers sell it. Habit loops hoard it. Novelty carpets over deeper wants. When you lose minutes, you lose intention. So notice the first motion. Name the lure. Acknowledge it without drama. Pause 30 seconds. Breathe. See if the urge softens or clarifies. Small delays reveal patterns. Shape the field around you. One open document. One clear object on the desk. Fewer tabs. Fewer choices. Less noise for what wants to come forward. This is not austerity. It is stewardship. What would your days look like if you spent attention like money, where a single choice might buy an hour of becoming?
Listen. Then let the question sit. If attention is currency, time is the ledger. Small deposits add up. Quiet consistency compounds where drama never reaches. Think of tree rings. Each thin year is barely visible alone. Over decades, they become a map. Or a slow river cutting stone, patient, unglamorous, inevitable.
Patience here is tactical. Not resignation. Not waiting for permission. It is choosing a horizon long enough to let small acts rearrange your life. A single page a day. 5 minutes of practice. One deliberate choice repeated until the repetition becomes identity. This asks for quieter courage. To prefer slow accumulation over sudden fixes. To measure progress in seasons, not spikes. What would you begin today if you trusted time to do the rest? Because you've chosen a long horizon, your next move is quieter. Design the margins that will carry the months. Start small. Move the running shoes to the doorway. Put a notebook by the kitchen light. Make the first choice effortless. Create tiny thresholds. One push-up before coffee. One sentence before email. Not to punish. To make a new motion habitual. Signal identity softly. A single object. A short line you read each morning. These are not vows. They are cues that whisper who you're becoming.
And then wait. Watch which modest changes gather momentum. Which one asks for more of you? Which one quietly reshapes the day?
Now that some motions have settled, notice the room those motions need. Minimalism here is not scarcity. It is selection. It is the quiet coaching voice that asks, what supports this habit, and what distracts it? Remove a shelf of projects. Close a tab. Uninstall an app you open when tired. Not to punish. To lower the noise so the fragile momentum can be felt. Design friction where it protects you. Add ease where it helps. A clear desk. A single playlist. One phone-free hour after lunch. Small architecture, steady effect. The point is less about perfect order and more about invitation. When you clear too much, something unhurried moves in. What wants to arrive in that empty space?
Now that you've made room, another presence quietly arrives. Not an enemy. Not a verdict. A set of folded things you shoved away. Jung called it the shadow. It shows up as sudden irritation. A recurring fear. A tiny, persistent ache when someone praises you. Or the urge you pretend not to have. Notice it without drama. Notice where you point your finger outward. Projection is ordinary. It's a map, not a sentence.
Resistance feels like weight. It clamps the new habit. It also carries information about what wants attention. You don't need to fix it immediately. You can name it. Sit with the shape of the feeling. Ask, gently, where else does this live? The shadow often wants a small acknowledgement more than a grand repair. What might it whisper if you listen long enough? The shadow has a request. Not for fixes. For attention. But attention is scarce. It is taxed by 1,000 small lights, pings, headlines, the pull of novelty. They trade your seconds for engagement. They reward reactivity. They amplify urgency.
Notice how easy it is to be outraged. How quiet things lose their foothold. Anxiety becomes an effective recruiter. Habit loops funnel your gaze away from what matters. Think of attention as a tiny ledger. Every glance, every scroll, is a withdrawal. Your emerging self budgets differently than your present habits. The question is not willpower alone. It is allocation. What would you let that ledger buy? What would you intentionally fund with your minutes?
If attention is a ledger, time is the accountant. Small deposits, a morning page, a half hour of practice, finishing one thing, compound. They do not announce themselves. They accumulate like a slow tide carving stone. You don't feel the inch. After months, the coastline is different. Naval named it compound returns. Not spectacle. Not drama. A quiet arithmetic, align incentives so your future self collects dividends. That asks for horizon setting. Choosing which months and years you fund. Tolerating invisible work. Letting payoffs remain silent. So the practical move is not more heroic willpower. It's patience as design. What small deposit could you make tomorrow that your future self would thank you for? Hold that question. Let it settle. Wait and notice what wants to be funded. If patience is the long plan, architecture is the daily frame.
Small, visible edits change what gets done. A notebook beside the bed. A single chair by the window. Your phone face down in another room. One app removed. One shortcut added. Choose a tiny ritual. After the kettle clicks, write one sentence. After you open your laptop, clear a single tab. Habit stacking, not heroics. Defaults do the heavy lifting. Signal who you want to be with small things. A mug you only use for focused work. A coat you put on before practice. These are quiet contracts with yourself. You are not building a new self in a day. You are arranging the room where that self can appear.
Tonight, what single frame will you place in your room? And how will you notice it tomorrow? You placed a frame. Now notice how the room asks for a different kind of work. Becoming spends energy. So does resisting. Both are finite. Fatigue arrives like a familiar weather, slow, unavoidable. It is not failure. It is data. Small recoveries matter. A kettle poured and left to cool. A short walk without an agenda. Folding a shirt with attention. A 5-minute breath between tasks. These are not detours. They are infrastructure for return.
Expect pulls back toward old habits. They teach you where the edges are. Meet them without condemnation. Name the tiredness. Offer it a small ritual. Tonight, let one undoing be deliberate. Put something down on purpose. Step back. Listen. What nudges awake when you stop holding on so tightly? If rest lets you hear the room, curiosity hands you a map. Imagine yourself as a house. The front room is the persona, tidy, lit, practiced for guests. The basement holds what you hide. Heavy things. Old refusals. This is the shadow. Between them, in a narrow stairwell, is the emerging tendency, a small light, sometimes flickering, sometimes steady. You might recognize it in small moments. You say, "I'm fine at work." At home you choose silence over the conversation you once wanted. Or you cancel a plan and feel relief and a secret ache at the same time.
Naming these rooms changes how you move. It does not fix everything, but it makes the edges legible. Which door asks to be opened first?
Now that the rooms are named, notice what moves between them. Desire acts like currency. Small rewards change the ledgers. A ping. A brief praise. The relief of skipping something. Cue, routine, reward. The loop is simple and stubborn. External incentives hand you immediate returns. Novelty, scarcity, social proof pull your attention. But there are quieter investments too. Habits that compound into taste. Preferences that pay out years later. This is not judgment. It's mechanism. Which impulses are deposits, and which are withdrawals? If desire is an economy, what are you quietly funding today?
We named the mechanisms. Now notice the thin line between what you can steer and what drives past you. The Stoic distinction is simple: some things happen to you, others happen in you. Weather, a market report, someone's verdict, out of your hands. Breath, attention, response, within it. Not a moral demand, a practical boundary. Choose the small field where energy returns interest. Choose the thought you water. When a ping arrives, pause. See the impulse. Ask, can I act from my aim or only from relief? Practicing that pause is how influence accumulates. Quiet, folded repetition. What would shift if this were your primary task?
When you steward attention, habits become the tools. Think of them as gentle sculpting. Not a single dramatic strike. Rather, tiny chisel marks. A cue. A tiny routine. A small reward. Over time, the shape appears. The morning you make your bed. The evening you close the laptop 2 minutes earlier. These are signatures you leave on yourself. No grand overhaul. Slow accretion. Practice one micro action. Repeat it until it asks less of you. Let it carry the aim you named. Then watch how the person who keeps showing up begins to feel familiar.
Imagine a table with one cup and winter light. A drawer that opens without complaint. Fewer options. Fewer small resistances. Fewer pings. That reduction is a kind of attention architecture. You design the edges where choice happens, then step back. Remove one decision tonight. Close one tab. Fold away a habit you no longer wear. Leave a little emptiness on purpose. See what lingers. See who steps forward into the quiet.
In the cleared room, something else arrives. Not a verdict. A shape. A flash of anger. An ache behind the ribs. A rehearsed excuse that feels automatic. These are not proofs of weakness. They are signal fires. Jung named this the shadow. Call it the parts you folded away. Notice where you tighten. Notice the tone in your voice. Meet the feeling without performance. Not to fix it on the spot. Just to learn its language. Sometimes it asks for small changes. Sometimes it asks for time. What wants to move through you next?
It speaks softly. Not accusation. Request. A demand for attention. It may show as hunger. Or as a stubborn habit. A sudden shame. Listen before you act. Name the tone. Feel where it sits in the body. Then offer something small. A kinder answer. A limit. A 10-minute pause. Sometimes the work is repair. Sometimes it is harmless attention. Rarely does it need a grand gesture. Mostly it needs recognition.
Now that you've named it, give it a place. Think of yourself as a house. The persona is the front room. Polished. Welcoming. It holds conversation. The shadow lives below stairs. Dark, noisy with the feelings you tuck away, anger, hunger, the small excuses that keep you safe. Emerging tendencies are cracked windows. Thin, persistent light. A late melody. A stubborn curiosity. This is not about demolition. It's about walking the rooms. Noticing which space gets all the furniture. Sitting with the shadow without slamming the door. Where would you pin yours? Then stay a little while and listen.
Now listen to what tugs at the curtains. Desire isn't thunder. It's an economy. Small payments. Tiny decisions. A coin drop for novelty, another for comfort. Each purchase reshapes the house. Habits are the ledger, cue, small routine, soft reward. Over time the ledger becomes architecture. A craving is a gust, a preference is the slow river that carves the floorboards. Notice what you spend automatically. Notice what you budget attention for. No judgment. Just accounting. Because to know the currents is to begin to steer them. Which currencies do you keep spending?
There is a quiet map you can draw. Not moral. Not absolute. Simple, what lies within your reach and what lies outside it. You cannot stop the rain. You can choose the coat. You cannot change another person's anger. You can set your own tone. You cannot fix a market's mood. You can decide one small rule for your day. The Stoics offered this border as relief. It is a place to rest. Notice one thing you can move right now. Breathe. Then, quietly, begin. You named one small thing within reach. Habits are how that quiet choice becomes shape. Think of them as gentle chisels. Cue. Routine. Reward. A doorway opens, you step. A rule, make coffee, stand at the window, breathe 5 times, turns into an outline of a morning. No drama. No grand vow. Just repeat. Day after day it sculpts preferences. It narrows options enough for a new tendency to emerge. This is how we become less by insisting and more by tending. What small, repeatable motion would you let do the slow work of change? If habits are chisels, minimalism is the clearing around the sculpture. You make the edges less noisy. Fewer decisions. Fewer defaults tugging at you. A quieter kitchen. One inbox folder. 2 apps instead of 12. These are not ascetic sacrifices. They are architectural moves. They reduce friction so small tendencies can gather momentum. The empty spaces let you notice who is emerging. They reveal the subtle pulls you already have. Remove one prompt that redirects your morning. Watch what fills the quiet. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes a small, unexpected inclination. What might you let go of next?
Because we cleared space, something else arrives. The parts we shushed. The shadow. Not monsters. Not secrets only. Simple wants, old fears, clumsy longings. They live in drawers we never open. They knock in odd ways, anger at a slow driver, envy of a friend's ease, a persistent restlessness. Projection is their light. We point at others and call it the weather. Or we soften it with shame. Both avoid information. Listen instead. Notice the shape of the irritation. Name it without fixing it. See what it needs: permission, practice, a small boundary. Then wait. See who comes through.
When the shadow steps forward, listen to its grammar. It speaks in impulses, the tight jaw, the racing thought, the sudden excuse. Don't fix it. Translate. Ask one low-stakes question. What story am I living right now? Offer a small counter, a pause, a breath, a boundary, one sentence of permission. Often the answer is banal. Often it is tender. Let the response arrive on its own time. You are not reconciling overnight. You are practicing a new tenderness with parts that thought they were alone. See what wants to be invited next.
Now that you've listened, stay with it. Notice what wants only acknowledgement and what wants shaping. A tight urge isn't a verdict. It's information. Name it quietly. Offer a tiny experiment, a different answer, a softer boundary, a brief ritual. Watch for surprise. The intensity often leaks away when met without drama. Sometimes the impulse folds back, chastened. Sometimes it deepens, needing a longer conversation. Either way, you have options. You can feed the pattern. Or you can redirect your attention toward a small, deliberate act that feels true. See what happens next. Now move from impulse to interior geography. Picture a house. The rooms are parts of you. The front room is the persona, the face you offer the world, tidy and rehearsed. Downstairs is the shadow, crowded with discarded wants, stubborn hurts, the things you pretend not to own. Between floors, in the cracks, new shoots press toward light, small, awkward tendencies that don't fit the old plan. Visit them without judgment. Describe them simply. A label is enough. Where in this house does your attention rest? Stay there a beat. See what that place wants, if anything, and what it quietly resists. If you linger in that room, watch what happens. A thought surfaces. A small ritual follows: phone, snack, a phrase you repeat to yourself. The loop is quiet. Cue. Routine. Reward. Wants collect like coins. Some by ease. Some by attention. Desire is an economy. It has sponsors, novelty, scarcity, approval. Habits are its ledgers. Over time, the transactions compound. They build stairs and fences. Ask, without judgment, who is underwriting these impulses. Follow one payment back. See what it buys. See who you are becoming in its wake.
One is changeable. Small choices. Where you place your attention. The stories you tell yourself. The habits you repeat. How you answer a message. Whether you stand up and walk. These are yours to shape.
The other is indifferent. Other people's praise. Market swings. The weather. Outcomes that refuse to be negotiated. This is not resignation. It is a practical separation. An anchor. Notice one small choice in front of you now. Which territory will you invest in next?
Every choice has a price. Not in dollars, but in attention. Seconds spent. Little satisfactions that arrive after a click. Desire runs an economy inside you. It credits what pays back fast. Novelty. Praise. Avoidance. Comfort. Over time, those micropayments build a ledger. And the ledger sculpts who you become. So look, briefly, at the payment you're about to make. What payoff are you buying? Relief, recognition, distraction, or something steadier? Trace it back a beat. See the force underwriting it. This isn't judgment. It's information. What might happen if you routed one small credit differently?
Something steadier needs an anchor. Stoicism offers one. You can't stop the ping. You can't control other people's praise. You can, however, widen the gap between stimulus and response. Name the impulse. Breathe. Pause. Choose one small delay before the next click. Treat it as an experiment. See what changes. See what quietly doesn't. What would that small holding buy you? Those small holds become material. Habit is not drama, it is repetition in quiet rooms. A breath becomes the cue. A small refusal, the routine. The tiny relief, the reward. Over months, these margins shape who you are. Not suddenly, not loudly. Slowly. What single micro-repeat could you let run tonight and check on in a month?
Now, make room. Remove one decision. Close one tab. Clear a drawer of old receipts. Turn off one notification. Small reductions change the horizon of attention. Minimalism here is tactical. Fewer crumpled options. Easier choices. When noise is trimmed, the emerging tendency can be seen. Try one subtraction tonight. See what arrives in the quiet. Now, in the quiet, something shifts. A small resistance. A prick of irritation. A recurring dream. These are the parts you kept in the dark, nudging the light. Not to fix them. To receive them. Notice the body first, a tight jaw, a hollow behind the ribs. Ask softly, what wants attention here? Stay with the question. Wait. See what rises.
Some images rise. A practiced smile at the table. A stubborn ache behind the ribs. A tentative hand reaching towards something new. Name them simply: the public face, the shadow that flinches, the half-formed tendency pulling forward. Each moves on its own timetable. Notice how they occupy space in you. Which voice leans forward when you imagine tomorrow? Sit with that, quietly. Let the map arrive without pressure.
A map has layers. One layer is the face you show, polished, rehearsed. Beneath it, a darker corridor, shame, fear, untended longing. Between them, a quiet current, habits and small inclinations folding toward a new horizon. Notice where each rests in your body. No need to name everything. Just notice. What part asks to be heard first?
Beneath the corridor, there is an economy. Small rewards trade for attention. Notifications, habits, praise, small deposits that shape taste. Desire is not moral. It is a ledger. Some wants burn bright and then fade. Preferences compound, quietly, over years. Notice where you spend your attention. What are you investing in now? Those small deposits of attention matter. But they do not all require you. There is a Stoic axis to hold. Some things you can steer: your decisions, your framing, the next small act. Other things are weather, reputation, traffic, quick judgment. This distinction doesn't fix everything. It offers a place to breathe. Practice choosing the next gesture. Let less of your nervous energy be spent arguing with noise. What would you decide if you treated attention as something you could quietly direct? Habits are the slow chisel. A tiny gesture, repeated, hollows a path through feeling. Cue, routine, reward, not as rules, but as focused attention on a single, manageable act, lighting the kettle, closing the phone, standing to stretch. Over months, those micro decisions begin to look like you. Which small signpost could you set now, quiet enough to survive a bad day?
Let the space you make become part of the habit. Remove decision friction. Close tabs you never read. Bring one ritual to the morning, a single, clear thing. Less choice leaves room for noticing. When the noise recedes, you hear the direction you were nudging toward. What would show up if you simply stopped adding?
When the noise recedes, something else finds room. Not an enemy. A keeper of old wounds. It arrives small and ache at dusk, an impatient thought steering you back to familiar scripts. Projection follows quietly. We see in others what we won't feel in ourselves. Don't rush to exile it. Notice. Name the tug. Sit with that soft intensity. Ask, without pressure, who in me is trying to be known now? And what would happen if I made a little space to answer?
Slow your breath. Close the door for a moment. Put pen to paper and name the ache without argument. Don't interrogate it. Listen like a room holding a single voice. Answers may come as a sentence, a color, or nothing at all. Any of those are information. Keep the space small and return tomorrow. Over time the tug will shift shape, not vanish. Notice what it asks next.
Walk the inside of your attention like a quiet house. One room is polished. It speaks easily. Another sits in the dim back hall, old coats and unanswered names. A small, bright corner is beginning to unfurl, new habits, soft urgencies. Don't judge the rooms. Map them gently. Which door opens when the world knocks? Those rooms have names, if you listen. One is the persona, polished habits learned to belong. Another is the shadow, stores of exile, soft resentments. A smaller space is beginning, half furnished, awkward with new practice. Walk the halls without deciding. Let the voices speak. Notice which door opens at stress. Which room holds a quiet hunger?
Beyond those doors, a quiet market hums. It trades in small payments. A like, a sugar hit, a finished checklist, a compliment. Each reward is currency. Over time, the currency furnishes a room. Habit becomes wallpaper. Not moral, mechanical. Desire keeps books. It credits what repeats. So listen to the receipts. Notice where your attention spends itself. Who are you subsidizing now?
Notice one more ledger. Not external rewards, but the field of choice. Some things land on you. Others pass through your reach. You cannot choose the weather of thought, but you can choose the door you open. A pause. You can steady the breath. You can decline a small subsidy. Small decisions tilt the room. What would you let in if the door stayed closed a little longer? Let the door stay closed. Breathe. Notice the tiny acts that follow. A cup left in the sink. A sentence unfinished. The small, repeating movements are the sculptor's chisel. Day by day they shave an edge from who you once were. Not with drama. With habit. Name one tiny threshold, the pen on the desk, the first step out the door, and keep it. See what shape returns. What will that quiet consistency ask of you? Keep the threshold. Sit with its ordinary gravity. Over weeks, choices that once dissolved into noise begin to show their edges. A hesitation at the door. A voice that declines a meeting. These are not failures. They are signals, soft alignments, and small resistances, mapping the shape of a self in progress. No grand reveal. Just a slow clarifying. Notice what lingers when you stop making decisions for distraction. What might that make space for?
In the space left by stopped distractions, something small begins to stir. A quieter appetite. A recurrent thought that won't be silenced by busyness. A tug toward fewer, stranger commitments. Not clarity yet. Only contours. You learn the difference between restlessness and call. You learn how soft refusals accumulate. Listen. What wants to be tended here? In that silence you can begin to name the rooms. The persona, neat, rehearsed, useful, is a parlor. The shadowed parts live in the attic. They are louder than you think. Between them, something like a sapling leans toward light. Call it the emerging self. Not yet formed. Patient, awkward, persistent. Listen to how each room speaks. Which door do you find yourself opening first?
Walk the house slowly. The parlor performs. The attic clatters with old grievances. Beneath the floorboards, a cellar holds patterns, habits stacked like mason jars. The sapling roots toward a sliver of skylight. Each room keeps its own logic, appearance, ache, urge, possibility. Name them without judgment. Not to fix, but to find doors. Notice which rooms conspire to keep the sapling in shadow. Stay with that question. See what opens next.
Now imagine a map. Certain territories were a face. The parlor is the persona, polished, public. The attic holds grievances, the shadow, folded into whispers. The cellar keeps habits, buried economies of wanting. Between them, the sapling nudges light, an emerging tendency, neither performance nor past. You don't need answers. Begin by locating. Where does your weight sit? And where does it tilt toward light? Each room runs on a currency. Small rewards. Tiny reliefs. Cue. Routine. Reward. An old circuit. Want becomes habit when paid often enough. Attention pays interest. The parlor collects applause. The cellar hoards compulsion. The sapling leans where incentives nudge it. These forces are not moral. They are mechanics. They route energy. They shape direction. Notice the streams they follow. Where is your attention depositing its interest?
All forces shape the terrain. But not all are yours to steer. Some currents respond to you, others sweep past. You can tend attention, choose the next act, steady the breath. You cannot command applause, weather, or market tides. That distinction is simple. It is also a place to rest. If you mark that axis, what shifts under your hands and what doesn't, what might you do next? Start with an edge. A single thing you can do reliably. Not to perform, but to learn the weight of habit. Small acts carve identity when repeated in quiet. Arrange one corner of your day. Remove one choice that siphons attention. Notice the friction. Notice what eases. Over months, margins accumulate into shape. A future self arrives by accretion. What small fidelity might you hold, just for a while? Now, make room around that small fidelity. Remove one lever that constantly argues with it. Close a tab. Silence a notification. Choose fewer paths into your day. Design a single doorway where decisions must pass. The less that presses, the clearer the pull becomes. Space is an amplifier. What would settle if you simply removed the rest?
With less noise, other voices move forward. A clipped habit becomes a question. The parts you shelved, fear, a hunger for notice, a quieter appetite, ask to be named. Don't rush to fix them. Sit and listen. Map them like rooms in an old house, dim corners, a stubborn window, a door you keep closing. Notice which rooms you visit. Notice which doors remain shut. Let that map be imperfect, for now.
Now name the tenants. The polished self you show the world. The shape that hides in basements, old hurts, sharp wants. And a thin green shoot that keeps appearing in forgotten corners. Give each a small story. One sentence. Not to judge. Just to know where they sit at the table. Notice how they argue. See which voice wins without trying. Breathe into that room. Stay with the listening. There is more to discover.
Listen to their economy. Each voice has a currency: praise, novelty, ease, fear. Habits are ledgers. Small rewards record themselves into preference. What once was urgent becomes background. Desire is not a mystery. It is a machine, cues, routines, payouts, that quietly funds the self we live in. Notice which payouts your tenants chase. Notice what pays their rent. Then, without hurry, ask what you would rather bankroll.
You can't pick every signal. You can pick your response. Stoics called it the circle of control: impressions, judgments, actions. Small, testable things: a pause before answering, a boundary around your morning, the refusal to chase every notification. These are tiny acts of sovereignty. Not dramatic. Quiet. They shift which voices get paid. Try one. Notice what loosens. Then see what else wants tending. A habit is small choreography. A cue: light through the window. A routine: 2 deep breaths, a cup poured. A tiny reward: the warmth against your palms. Over months, those gestures stitch together. Not a miracle. Quiet signatures. They tell the world who you are before you proclaim it. So choose the seams. Weave slowly. See which stitches hold. Notice the ones that fray. And wonder what pattern is trying to form.
After the stitches, the cloth still sits on a cluttered table. Clearing is not subtraction for its own sake. It's making room to see the pattern. Remove a chair. Close a tab. Put the calendar on silence. Trim choices until attention can settle. Friction left in place always calls you back. Minimalism here is deliberate neglect. Quiet by design. Not asceticism, a soft architecture for attention. Wait. Listen. What pattern wants to finish itself?
With less noise, the parts you deny find room to speak. They arrive as irritation, as a saved draft you never open, as shapes in the corner of a morning. Not enemies. Messengers. They point to desires, wounds, capacities waiting for a softer hand. Listen. Note where your gaze tightens. What wants passage through you?
Begin by receiving them. Not fixing. Not arguing. A small practice. Notice the heat behind the irritation. Name it fear, grief, hunger, curiosity. Breathe. Offer one quiet question. What wants to move through me? No rush. Let images gather. Watch how small concessions make new room. Often the reply is an ordinary action. Sometimes silence. Keep listening. What, if anything, shifts now?
Now locate the parts. The face you present to the world, the persona, is useful. Behind it sits the shadow, wishes folded into corners, but complaints you don't speak. Between them, something quieter nudges toward change. Imagine a house with rooms. Walk its hallway. Which door feels warm, which smells like old papers? Stay a moment. What wants your attention next?
Open one door softly. Inside, rituals that keep you safe. Another creaks, old grievances, a voice you learn to mute. Between them a narrow stairwell rises. It is quieter. It holds small experiments, unfinished curiosities. These parts barter for your attention. They bargain in habits, sudden warmth, avoidance. Stay with that stairwell for a moment. See where it leads.
At the landing, the stair opens into 3 small rooms. One is curtained, the persona. It greets the world, scripts your manners, keeps you legible. A low door leads to the cellar, the shadow. There is heat there. Old grievances. Quiet longings you learn to hide. Above, a thin skylight admits a pale shoot, the emerging self. Small experiments. Half-formed tastes. They are not enemies. They speak different tongues. Listen for tone more than noise. Which one stirs when you wait? From this vantage, the rooms form a simple map. The persona keeps conversation safe. The shadow protects through withholding and heat. The emerging self speaks and experiments in half-formed yes. They trade attention and energy. Sometimes one speaks for all. Sometimes they argue in silence. Learn their accents. Notice who you answer first.
Each inner room has a patron. Praise pays the persona's rent. Ease keeps the shadow warm. Novelty hires the emerging self for auditions. These patrons are incentives, currents that move attention, shape habit. Wants arrive as bright signals. Preferences settle like furniture. The loops are quiet economies. What tracks your attention today? What pays the rent of who you become? Knowing what pays rent gives you a choice. Not everything that presses on you is yours to carry. Some tides are external. Others begin inside the door you can open. Stoics named it the circle of control. Small, immediate acts live there. A breath. A boundary. A turning toward. Practice quietly narrows the gap between impulse and intention. What, right now, is within your reach to change?
A breath becomes a pattern. A choice repeated carves a tendency. Habits are small machines: cue, routine, reward. Over time they harden into character. Not by grand vows, but by tiny rehearsals. Notice one cue you meet daily. Change the smallest response. Let it repeat, without drama. Less willpower. More architecture. Watch who you become in the margins. What tiny repeat could quietly redirect the next month?
A cleared table is not an absence. It's an invitation. Fewer options make the next choice visible. Remove a notification. Let a drawer hold only what you use. Lower the friction for what matters. Design small thresholds: a jar for thinking, an evening with no screens. Space is not neutral. It shapes attention. What would you notice if the noise were trimmed back? When the room falls quiet, something else begins to stir. Not a threat. An old habit. A particular ache. The parts you hid: shame, wanting, a small stubbornness, step into the light. They arrive as resistance. As projections onto others. Listen before you act. Name the tone of the feeling. Compassion first. Curiosity next. The shadow doesn't obstruct becoming. It speaks about what wants integration. What might it be asking of you now?
The shadow is not an enemy. It is a ledger of neglected parts. Anger, ache, desire, old currencies. They arrive as resistance or as sharp judgments of others. Breathe into the place that tightens. Ask one soft question: what does this part want from me? Wait. Listen without fixing. Let the answer be small, awkward, human. Then follow it, if only a step. Or hold the silence.
After you listen, attention decides whether the part is invited in. Attention is a quiet currency. It funds habit, feeds desire, erodes boundaries. Notice where your gaze goes. Ask, what am I funding with this moment? Try one small experiment. For 1 minute, stay with the thing that quietly matters. Let the rest fall soft at the edges. See what happens. What arrives when you tend less to noise and more to a single, small wanting?
When you stay with one small wanting, the house inside you rearranges. A familiar room grows quieter. Other rooms, persona, shadow, the half-built corridor of who you might become, shift into view. Some doors remain closed. Some open a sliver. Notice the furniture of old habits. Ask, softly, which part is arranging the space. Listen for the voice that wants attention. There may be a new doorway. What would it take to open it?
Step back. See the layout as a map. The persona is the parlor, well-lighted, practiced. The shadow lives under the stairs, cool, compact, full of discarded tools. Between them, a corridor widens. It is neither fully furnished nor abandoned. It holds small new habits, tentative loyalties, an appetite for different weather. Naming these rooms changes the distance between them. Which room would you visit first? Choose one. Walk to its threshold. Notice how the persona arranges light, polished manners, predictable furniture. The shadow keeps soft tools in the dark, old hurts, cunning comforts. Between them, an emerging room is under construction, a window half-framed, paint drying. It moves in small, repeated gestures. Listen for tone, not argument. No rush. No verdict. Just a map unfolding. Which door stirs when you breathe near it?
Take the map with soft eyes. The persona is the front room arranged, lit, saying hello. The shadow lives below stairs, old scripts, smuggled needs. Between them moves the nascent self, like a half-assembled window letting new light in, unsure how to fit. Notice which voice greets the morning. Which door do you open without thinking? Hold that question. Let it echo. Now notice the forces that pay the rent of those rooms. Habits, praise, novelty, algorithmic light. They don't argue. They reward repeat behavior. Desire runs an economy inside you. It allocates attention, energy, time. Some investments compound curiosity, craft, steady presence. Others pay out fast and vanish. Watch where you spend. What keeps cashing in? Let that question rest beside the map.
Begin with a small distinction. Some things change only because you act. Others simply unfold. Let the rest fall away. You cannot command the weather or another person's mood. You can choose your response, your attention, your next sentence. That sphere, tiny, precise, is where identity is practiced. Stay there for a moment. What would you tend differently if choice were that small? There is a persona, the self that meets the world. A shadow, the parts you hide, project, or refuse. And a quiet, emerging tendency, small pulls toward another shape. Listen for their rhythm. Watch where they argue. Mapping is not judgment. It is attention with patience. Where, quietly, does your becoming start?
Now notice what pays attention. Desire is not only feeling. It is currency. Rewards, incentives, small reinforcements, they underwrite who shows up. A like, a sale, a quiet habit loop, cue, routine, reward. Over time, repeated settlements become preference. Temporary wants calcify into character. Watch the invisible economy. Where are you investing your small payments? What, quietly, is banking the shape you will be? Not everything that shapes you needs your permission. Some of it lies beyond reach, weather, verdicts, other minds. Other things are quietly yours. The way you answer. The pause before you reply. The first small step after a setback. Choice is modest. Choice is practice. Look for the border between the two. Breathe. Name one tiny sphere you can steward today, a first sentence, a walk, a refusal. That margin is where change learns to live. What might you try there? Habits are patient sculptors. A tiny cue. A single repeated motion. Over months, preference hardens into shape. Begin with the least friction, a cup taken outside, a sentence written before the day gets loud. Small acts do not declare identity. They practice it. Repeat once. Then wait. See what quietly settles in. Clear one surface. Remove a choice. Less noise gives the emerging shape room to breathe. Design small boundaries, an empty chair, a single notebook. Not austerity. Invitation. See what wants to continue. Wait. With the surface cleared, something else arrives. A tug. An old refusal. Not failure, a shadow stepping forward to be known. Listen without fixing. Notice the stories that flare, the parts you exile. They hold clues. Let curiosity, not judgment, meet them. Stay with that thin discomfort. See what asks for a seat. Let the room of yourself reveal its furnishings. A careful voice. A wary child. A ledger of promises unread. No hurry to reconcile. Name them softly. Notice how one leans toward the doorway while another roots to the floor. Sit with that arrangement. See what wants first to be heard.
Imagine rooms within rooms. The practiced self, polished, polite, sits by the window. The shadow, darker wallpaper, waits in the back. Between them, a thin corridor, a curious tendency, half-lit, assembling itself. Notice how each habit, each small gesture belongs to someone. Which doorway do you find yourself approaching?
Step closer. Name the rooms without judgment. The practiced self at the window is a costume. The shadow is not the enemy, it's a signal. The half-lit corridor holds small, repeated choices, votes toward a future. Breathe. Which door answers you?
Walk toward the quieter door. Listen to the loyalties that tug, habit, hunger, a nameless curiosity. No judgment. Just name them. Count the small votes in your chest. Let one hinge creak. Stay with the opening. See what asks to be tended next. In the doorway, notice voices, the familiar self, the quietly arriving one, and the small critic. No rush. Give each a moment. Let images gather, a coat, a child's sketch, an empty cup. Stay with them. See which wants to speak next. Imagine a house inside you. The parlor holds the practiced self. The attic keeps unfinished longings. The cellar keeps bruised parts, the shadow. A window looks out toward what's arriving. Walk, without judgment. Which door will you open next?
Walk the room slowly. Meet the practiced self in the parlor, polished gestures, known script. In the cellar the shadow listens. In the attic, half-made maps of who you might become. None are wrong. They speak different languages. Listen to one. Then listen to the others. Name them. The practiced persona. The hidden ache. The tentative impulse. Jung called these complexes relatives, not enemies. Each has its own logic. Sit with one. Ask quietly, which voice is learning to stay?
Now notice what pays attention. Desire invests in certain voices. Habits form where rewards are steady. Small payouts shape taste. Notice the ledger: likes, friction, novelty. No judgment. Just patterns. Which impulses are being funded? Which are starving? Listen. The answers arrive more slowly than you think. Some things you can't command. You can't will a feeling away. But you can choose the small ledger entries. A pause before reply. A step toward a different habit. Your attention is the coin. Spend it where you want to become. What would you tender today? Hold that question. Imagine inner rooms. One holds the persona, the face you wear. One holds the shadow, the parts kept in dark. Between them, a narrow doorway. Something new presses through. They trade notes in silence. No room is final. Listen to the footsteps. Which room asks to be heard next? We can name them. The persona, a polished mask learned for crowds. The shadow, an attic of unmet longing, hushed and stubborn. Between those rooms, the nascent self, a thin light, rehearsing new shapes. No labels fix it. Listen. Which doorway opens first? Walk the room slowly. The persona sits at the front door, courteous and practiced. The shadow keeps trunks in the attic, old claims, secret wants. Deeper still, Jung called it the self, a landscape where opposites meet. The nascent self moves like light along the floorboards. Notice where your footsteps hesitate, and which doorway you return to.
Walk to the wall. There is a hand-drawn map, not of streets but of selves. Persona, a tidy label. Shadow, boxed claims and old pauses. Self, Jung's meeting place, a distant horizon where contradictions sit together. Between them, a small light moves, testing thresholds. Watch. Which doorway tilts toward that light, and which one shuts? Step closer. Trace the ink. The persona is the house you perform in. The shadow is the basement, half-lit, tended in silence. Between them lie narrow corridors of habit and longing. Some doors bear names. Others only fingerprints. Listen to the small light. It is testing keys, not answers yet.
Walk slowly. Name rooms by use. The persona entertains guests, polished plates, borrowed laughter. The shadow keeps old maps, stains, folded edges. Between them, an attic gathers light, new tendencies, thin and persistent. Notice where you linger. A map, not a verdict. Which door will you open first? Move inward with soft attention. The persona arranges appearances. The shadow keeps the unpaid scripts. Between them, an emergent self tugs at the rafters, small, stubborn inclinations. Name each voice. Sit with their motives. Notice which one reaches for the window, and what light it wants. Listen without fixing. Let each voice speak once. The persona wants coherence. The shadow keeps score. The emergent self turns toward a single slit of light. Follow that lean for a breath. See what eases. Stay with the pull without rushing the answer. Something small might arrive. Or not. Either way, keep listening. What next? Now name the rooms inside you. The persona is the front hall, polished, practiced. The shadow lives in the attic, cold, noisy with old complaints. The emerging self is a thin window, catching slant light. Walk the room slowly. No judgment. Notice how each holds truth and resistance. One map, not a verdict. Where does the light sit for you? Listen to the hallways inside you. One voice keeps the script. Another guards old hunger. Between them, something remembers how to edge forward. Name each without hurry. Point with curiosity. Let a small compass form, not to fix you, but to show which door you might open next. Those doors open onto different rooms. One holds the self you show the world, the crafted face. Another stores what you deny, the shadow, stubborn and tender. Between them moves a smaller current. It gestures toward what wants to live through you. Stay with that gesture. See where it points. Now give them names: persona, shadow, the emergent edge. Walk the room slowly. Notice textures, polish, dust, stray light. No judgment. Each holds its logic. Each moves at its own tempo. Listen for small insistencies. They are maps, not verdicts. What wants to be known next? Now, listen for small urgencies. Notice where your gaze lingers. Desire keeps its own ledger. It trades attention, habit, and time. Some wants are loud and fleeting. Others pay steady interest. Which parts are spending your currency? Turn inward, not to repair but to map. There is the self you show, practiced, composed. There is the shadow, the parts tucked away. Beneath them, a slow current, small tendencies nudging toward shape. Name each quietly. Give them room. Notice which feels like home, and which still pulls.
Now widen your view. Notice not just the parts, but what moves them. Small rewards. Quiet habits. The promises whispered by novelty and comfort. These are currents. They pay attention in time. They shape taste more than intention. Watch where your energy goes. See which wants recur and which fade. Let that noticing be a ledger, not a verdict. Some currents move you without asking. But there is a small domain that still belongs to you. Where you place attention. The pause between impulse and act. The deliberate narrowing of options. These are quiet choices, cumulative. Notice one. See what shifts.
Walk inward. Picture rooms in a house of self. The mask in the front parlor, polished, practiced. A dim cellar holds the parts you denied. Near a window, a small restless seed waits. Name them. Move through gently. See which room pulls at your attention and why. Give each room a voice. Listen. The parlor speaks in rehearsed lines. The cellar keeps old debts in quiet ache. The seed hums a strange, patient wanting. No rushing. Let them sit together. Notice which voice moves when you act. Which one would you invite to the table?
Walk the house slowly. Sit with the seed. Let the cellar name its debts. Ask the parlor what it rehearses, then let it be. No fixing. Listen for tone, not answers. Notice who leans forward when you choose. Wait, see who replies. Step into the attic. Name the voice that clings to old scripts. Set a cup of silence beside it. Hear the kitchen hum when you speak plainly. Some rooms remain closed. Others glow. Notice the passages between them. Who carries your quiet? Who carries what's coming next?
Trace your inner floor plan. The mask waits in the hallway. The shadow inhabits the back room. The seed, small, warm, sits on a windowsill. Say their names. Let them stand together, unforced. Watch where their borders blur. Which doors open without effort? Which keep you in the doorway? Notice their rhythms. The mask rehearses. The back room broods. The seed leans toward light. No rush to reconcile them. Sit with small contradictions. Watch which habit opens a door and which silence seals it. Breathe. Wait. What moves first? Name them quietly: persona, shadow, the small self reaching. Each has its logic. Each keeps a score. Watch how they argue in gesture and habit. No verdict. Just a map. Which direction asks for gentleness? Listen to the space between them. Persona names the roles. The shadow keeps the ache. The reaching self tests edges with small, stubborn moves. Trace this topology. Which corridor do you follow next?
Imagine a quiet house inside you. One room holds the roles you perform. Another holds the hurt you hide. A smaller door opens onto the shape you are becoming. Which room would you step into now? Walk the hallway slowly. Notice the portraits on the wall, the roles, the scars, a faint sketch of who arrives. No rush. Stay with one portrait. See what moves when you look. Lean closer. Trace the paint. Behind the frame, a blurred figure breathes, unshaped, patient. Hold the breath. Wait. The hallway exhales.
You notice the edges. A shape settles into pattern. Not yet whole. Small choices hum like footsteps. Listen, something wakes, cautious and patient, almost curious. There are rooms inside you. Persona at the doorway. Shadow in the dim corner. An emerging tendency gathers at the center. Listen, what name does it ask for? You answer not with words, but with a small movement. A breath. A shift. The center tilts towards something unfamiliar. Stay with that tilt.
Notice where the tilt lands. A quieter self watches. Layers shift, mask, shadow, invitation. No verdict yet. Let names arrive slowly. What part steps forward now? Map them gently. The mask speaks in habit. The shadow answers in unattended impulses. The emerging tendency is quieter, persistent, small. Give it space. Breathe. Notice where energy gathers. Stay curious. No rush to reconcile.
Listen for the small currencies that move you. Desire often speaks in tiny payments. Name them. Breathe. Watch which ones return, patient and steady, shaping you without fanfare. Those quiet returns are clues. Quietly, they outline corridors you would willingly walk. Track them without forcing. Let a shape emerge, soft, stubborn, honest. Stay with it. See where curiosity keeps turning back. Notice the soft accumulations. A morning ritual. A thought you return to. Let them meet. Try one small step. Then wait. See how the corridor widens. See who walks toward it. Or who quietly steps away. In that widened corridor, choices arrive as whispers. Some bear old scripts. Some carry unfamiliar weight. Stand quiet. Let one step announce itself. Wait. Notice which voice claims the space. Listen to its tone. Old praise or new hunger? No immediate answer. Hold the pause. Let impressions pass through shapes, gestures, half memories. Some will stay. Some will dissolve. Stay with that soft unrest. See what asks for a name. Whisper a name. a face, a habit, a quiet claim. Not to judge, just to locate it. Tilt the lamp inward. Watch how the room rearranges itself. Now name the parts. The practiced self. The shape forming beneath you. The quiet weight in the corner. Let them stand in the same room. Watch how they regard one another. Notice who refuses to speak.
Listen. The practiced self offers a small smile. The shape shifts without hurry. the quiet weight clears its throat. No one fully claims the next move. What if you simply waited? Listen for the small stirrings. A different wanting. Not urgent. Not triumphant. Just a quieter pull. You don't have to decide now. Let the shape name itself. See what arrives. Feel the layers. The self you show. The parts you tuck away. A thinner, persistent tendency, unfinished. Name them softly, or merely notice their textures. Which one leans toward morning light?
Listen for the small pull, a quieter preference, a repeated gesture. Let it surface without verdict. What would follow that lean if you stayed with it a little longer? Stay with that lean. Watch what wants to step forward. Name it softly. Breathe. Wait. See whether it asks anything of you. Lean into the small movement. Name it curiosity, doubt, appetite. Offer a quiet question. Wait. Let the answer arrive slowly or not at all. This is how a self unfolds. Listen to the soft disagreement between who you are and who leans toward becoming. Name its voice. Not to fix it, but to map its edges. Stay with that boundary. See what waits there. Imagine rooms inside you, a tidy parlor, a dim basement, an open window where something arrives. Walk their threshold softly. See who lingers. Notice which door wants opening. Name them quietly, the face you offer, the ache you tuck away, the thing at the window. Sit. Breathe. Let their rhythms speak. One of them keeps knocking. Now, sense three voices, the persona, the shadow, the emerging self. Hear their tempos. No rush. Name them softly. Notice where the knock hurts. Notice where it feels like a door. What if you answered, just a sliver? Answer with a breath. Let one small movement be enough. Listen to the room inside you. Watch which voice softens, which tightens. Not to fix, to notice. And then, what opens next? Listen for the rooms inside you, the cautious one, the restless one, the quietly curious. Name them briefly or leave them unnamed. Let them occupy the same space. Watch where they gather. Which doorway does your attention drift toward? Imagine a quiet map, the practiced mask, the hidden ache, a small impulse at the edge. No judgment. Notice the routes between them. Where does your attention choose to travel next?
There are layers. The practiced mask sits on the surface. Underneath, an ache holds scenes not yet lived. Between them, a small becoming feels experimental. Listen. Which layer speaks first? Name them: the mask, the ache, the emerging edge. The mask rehearses gestures. The ache keeps a ledger of misses. The edge tries a small, untested step. Sit with their rhythm. Breathe. Let one voice finish before the next speaks. Let them breathe in the same room. The mask speaks in rehearsed lines. The ache holds a quiet accounting. The edge makes a tentative movement, small, almost invisible. Wait. See what shifts when you do nothing but notice.
A face in the mirror. A quieter voice behind it. Names matter less than attention. Let the layers unfold at their own pace. Notice the small rearrangements. Breathe. Remain with the not yet. Inside, rooms open and close. A practiced self in daytime light. A shadow in the corner. An emerging voice learning the floor plan. Walk slowly. Name a room. Move toward what lingers there. Notice how some doors are already ajar. A hand on a half-open door. Light slants through dust. You step, but not all the way. There is an old coat. A name surfaces. It might be yours, or it might be becoming.
You linger. The coat's shoulder remembers a shape. Part of you waits in the doorway, another already moves down a corridor you don't yet see. Listen. A question forms, which self will walk through? You inhabit both, the old script and a quieter voice-shifting cadence. Stay. Notice small impulses. They begin to trace a map you don't yet name. Follow them without hurry. Let edges soften. Some parts argue. Others hush. No verdict yet. Just footsteps, layered and patient, leading toward a question you haven't learned to ask.
Listen for the tug between habit and possibility. Not loud. A small pulling beneath the ribs. It offers a direction, not a map. Stay with that soft friction. See where it turns the light. Imagine 3 rooms, the familiar, the reaching, the shadow. Move between them slowly. Which doors open without force? Which remain dark? Stay with that not knowing. Listen. Feel the currents that pull at thresholds. Small rewards, quiet promises, a certain ease, these are the economy of your days. Track one gentle pull. Follow it a few steps. See where it wants you to go. Notice which pulls feel like pressure and which feel like invitation. Breathe. Name one small choice you can make now. Hold it lightly. Watch how attention shifts, an opening, not a rush.
Name the parts inside you. The cautious self. The one quietly reaching. Let them sit together without deciding. Notice how each draws your breath differently, small signals, not verdicts. Listen to the conversations between them. One favors safety, another leans toward risk. Notice the edges where they overlap. You don't need to choose now. Stay with the sounds. Something soft wants to be heard.
Name them quietly. The cautious part. The curious one. A third, unfinished, feeling its way forward. Watch how they shift when you breathe. No verdict. Just presence. See what wants to remain and what wants to go. Let them sit. Watch how one steadies the other. Notice textures, old caution, bright curiosity, a soft restlessness. No need to decide. Listen for the small movements between them. What if becoming is a patient conversation, not a verdict?
Stay present. Let the quieter voice trial small experiments, a different pause, a tentative yes. Notice how these tiny tests tilt the field. No rush. See what opens next. Notice the space those tests leave behind. A slight shift in rhythm. An old script loosens. Let curiosity walk through. No conclusion now. Just evidence, soft, accumulating, that you are moving, quietly, towards someone not yet named. Now, turn inward. Notice layers, the familiar mask, the quieter shadow, a small tendency stirring. Name them lightly. No fixing. Just seeing. What shapes might these parts make over time? Trace the edges. Watch how they lean toward one another. Sometimes collide. Sometimes orbit. Listen for small preferences, habitual pulls. Ask, which voice steadies, which unsettles? Let the question sit quietly. There are rooms inside, the practiced mask, the unvoiced shadow, and a timid promise. Move slowly between them. Notice how light falls. Which door opens first? Step through. Hear the rooms breathe. The mask relaxes into habit. The shadow coughs up an old hurt. The promise pulses, barely audible. Stay with that pulse. What might it ask you to keep? Listen. The pulse speaks in small returns. A drawer unlatches. A softer yes settles. Not all parts require uprooting. Some ask only to be tended. What would you tend first? Begin with the quietest wound. Notice which hand reaches. Give water, shelter, not overhaul. A name whispered into a drawer. Let small tending teach how far you might go. What does that soft voice ask next? Listen for the small insistence beneath routine. Tended quietly. No plan yet. A thin thread. Follow it a little further. Notice what loosens. Watch what returns. Let it gather shape. Not a plan. A tendency, a quieter wanting. Notice small choices that answer. Stay with the pull. See where it leads, if anywhere.
Try small experiments. Remove one distraction. Keep one quiet promise. Wait. Watch what leans toward you. Answers come like weather, soft, shifting, not final. Name what keeps returning. Notice its texture, quiet ease or restless noise. Keep a soft ledger. Let small returns guide you. Stay curious. See where a life begins to gather. Trace the pattern gently. Name the voice that answers. Notice where attention lingers, warmth, ache. Keep the ledger. Don't fixate. Let each return open a doorway. See who steps through. Or who hesitates at the threshold.
Name the parts quietly. Persona, shadow, emergent impulse. Listen without judgment. Notice who moves forward, who holds back. Keep the question open. Let the contours form in silence. Now notice what calls them. Small rewards, fleeting comforts, the rush of approval. Desire is an economy. It pays certain parts to move. Watch where the currency flows. Some payments by comfort. Others by the shape of your days. You cannot stop the market. You can, however, tend the ledger, decide which accounts received your attention. Watch the small transfers. What are you funding?
If attention is currency, inner parts collect interest. Small deposits become tastes. Listen, which self grows when you pay it? And which waits, unheard? Watch the quiet accretion. A preference takes root. A life slowly leans. Not every gain is gentle. Some growth is erosion. Which shape do you let thicken? Which voice do you fund? Notice which choice you funded today. Not loud decisions. Tiny habitual votes. They accumulate. They betray your leanings before you do. Keep that ledger soft. What would happen if you simply stopped funding one small voice? Listen to the silence that follows. A quieter voice takes its place, patient, curious. It does not demand. It only asks to be noticed, as if opening a small door.